Senator Seward.
Yes, Mr. President, may we please have Resolution 1635 by Senator Libous read in its entirety and move for its immediate adoption.
Secretary will read.
By Senator Libous, legislative resolution memorializing Governor George E. Pataki to proclaim Wednesday, June 2nd, 1999 as Legislative Disability Awareness Day in the state of New York. Whereas the New York State Senate Select Committee on the Disabled, in conjunction with the New York State Assembly Task Force on People with Disabilities, is sponsoring the 19th Annual Legislative Disability Awareness Day. Whereas it is the sense of this legislative body that persons with disabilities merit our recognition as they realize the goals of inclusion and equality in our communities and society at large. It is the intent of this legislative body to recognize persons with disabilities, accentuating, in turn, the benefit to New York State of their contributions to our economic, educational, and social growth. Legislative Disability Awareness Day so clearly labors for the positive and salutary definition of the communities of the state of New York. Legislative Disability Awareness Day will conclude with the legislative body considering legislation significant to persons with disabilities. Legislative Disability Awareness Day provides individuals with an opportunity to acknowledge and understand the legislative process. Now, therefore, be resolved that this legislative body pause in its deliberations to memorialize Governor George E. Pataki to proclaim June 2nd, 1999 as Legislative Disability Awareness Day in the state of New York, fully confident that such procedure mirrors our shared commitment to the effervescence of human dignity. And be it further resolved that copies of this resolution, suitably engrossed, be transmitted to Governor George E. Pataki and selected representatives of persons with disabilities.
Senator Libous.
Mr. President, my colleagues, today we celebrate in the Capitol the 19th years that we have had Legislative Disability Awareness Day. And whether it's at work, sports, the arts, television or stage, people with disabilities have proven that they can do anything that someone who does not have a disability can do. We've had a number of special guests at our Legislative Disability Awareness Day over the years. We've had Miss Deaf New York. We've had two authors who had Down syndrome who wrote a book. We had a U.S. Open wheelchair tennis champion. We had athletes from the Special Olympics. And last year, if you recall, we had an Olympic athlete who had one leg who was a skier. There are a number of things that we try to do on this day each year, but the biggest thing is to promote the fact that this body, working in conjunction with our colleagues in the Assembly and the Governor, have done a number of good things to help people with disabilities. But we're only scratching the surface, Mr. President. We have so many more things to do. I'd like to thank my colleagues today and just mention some of the major pieces of legislation that have passed this House, gone on to the Assembly, and been signed into law by the Governor as we support and help people with disabilities. A program for traumatic brain injury in the Department of Health. At one time, anyone who suffered from traumatic brain injury was sent out of the state. There were no services and no care. We moved to pass the Medicaid waiver bill several years ago, and I was told this morning that over 700 TBI victims are now serviced and treated right here in New York State, where 5 years ago, every one of those victims were sent out of the state. We've strengthened handicap parking enforcement to assure that people don't violate the law and park where they're not supposed to, that a handicap spot is supposed to be a spot for someone with a disability, not someone who's in a hurry to run into a restaurant or to run into a department store. We brought the Americans with Disabilities Act to New York, and we passed legislation for reasonable accommodations. Last year, we provided tax credits to employers who hire people with disabilities, and we have expanded opportunities for people with hearing impairment. Mr. President, this body has done a lot, but we will do more. It is on this day that we celebrate and we bring awareness to people that someone who has a disability is no different than you and I in this chamber. They are people too. They deserve the same rights, the same opportunities as we do.
Senator Fuschillo.
Mr. President, and let me compliment my colleague, Senator Tom Libous, for sponsoring this Legislative Disability Awareness Day and his advocacy for the disabled in the state of New York. About a year ago, I had the pleasure of meeting what I characterize as truly a remarkable woman, Betty Gastelua, who is here with us in the chambers today. At the tender age of 13, from a rare virus, she was partially paralyzed from the waist down. And at that age, she was truly determined not to allow her disability slow her down. She worked extremely hard to gain her strength and physical ability back. Graduated from high school, earned her bachelor's degree, and earned her master's degree in public administration with a specialty in healthcare. She has had a long and successful career in the healthcare industry. Through her determination, perseverance, and independence, she has been able to do and see all that she has set out to do. World-class traveler and a bit of an adventurist as well. Her hobbies: hot air ballooning, white water rafting, skiing, parasailing, and horseback riding. She's dedicated her life to community service and to her church, where she has been a member for more than 28 years. Betty recently founded a program to feed the homeless, and as a result of that, more than 100 individuals in her community are fed each month. Betty's motto: "I strongly believe that people helping people is the way to make a change." She's an example of somebody who has made a change in our society and our state. Most recently, through the Miss Wheelchair America program, a program to select the most accomplished and articulate spokesperson for the more than 50 million individuals with disability, I am proud to introduce to my colleagues Miss Wheelchair New York, Betty Gastelua. Thank you, Mr. President.
Question is on the resolution. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution is unanimously adopted. Senator Seward.
President, may we please have Resolution 1642, also by Senator Libous, read in its entirety and move for its immediate adoption.
The Secretary will read.
By Senator Libous, legislative resolution commending Henry Holden upon the occasion of his participation in Legislative Disability Awareness Day as guest speaker June 2nd, 1999. Whereas individuals devoted to improving the quality of life for others, enabling them to build lives of dignity and self-worth, are deserving of the highest praise and recognition. This legislative body is justly proud to commend Henry Holden upon the occasion of his participation in Legislative Disability Awareness Day as guest speaker to be held at the State Capitol in Albany, New York on Wednesday, June 2nd, 1999. Actor, athlete, stand-up comic, and activist Henry Holden contracted polio at the age of 4 during the 1952 national polio epidemic. Henry Holden is the founder of Performers with Disabilities for Screen Actors Guild and has been recognized by the Screen Actors Guild with the prestigious Joseph P. Riley Award for always stressing the importance of including performers with disabilities in all forms of entertainment. Henry Holden is also the recipient of the very first American Scene Award given by both Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists for the rock video which he starred in, entitled I Got News for You. Henry Holden's TV credits include T.J. Hooker, After MASH, Hill Street Blues, Knots Landing, Hunter, Dear John, Duet, Jake and the Fat Man, Kids Incorporated, and Divorce Court, as well as the critically acclaimed independent film Misplaced. Henry Holden's theater credits include Disabled Genius, Boys Next Door, The Green Turtle, and his own one-man show, For Want of a Hero, which is about a young disabled boy who comes to terms with his hero worship of Franklin Roosevelt. Henry Holden is the producer of the award-winning documentary Look Who's Laughing, which features 6 comedians with disabilities. He also has his own new comedy act called God Walks on Crutches. Henry Holden has expressed his views on inclusion of people with disabilities on numerous talk shows such as The Phil Donahue Show, The Today Show, Entertainment Tonight, as well as local media around the country. The only state he is not presented in is Alaska. Henry Holden's athletic accomplishments include being a certified scuba diver, riding at the National Horse Show at Madison Square Garden, bowling a 198 in league competition, taking flying lessons both in a single engine and a glider, and lastly, skiing in Colorado, both four-track and mono ski. He has also completed the Los Angeles Marathon, which was 26.2 miles. This past year, the Association for the Promotion of Campus Activities selected Henry Holden as Lecturer of the Year finalist. Whereas it is the sense of this legislative body that those who enhance the well-being and vitality of their community and have shown a long, sustained commitment to excellence certainly have earned recognition and applause. Now, therefore, it be resolved that this legislative body pause in its deliberations to commend Henry Holden upon the occasion of his participation in Legislative Disability Awareness Day as guest speaker June 2nd, 1999, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution, suitably engrossed, be transmitted to Henry Holden.
Senator Libous.
Thank you, Mr. President. Henry, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your remarks earlier today. He gave some very moving remarks as we opened up Legislative Disability Awareness Day. You know, Henry wears a pin that says, "Attitudes are the real disability," and that's the philosophy he lives by, because there are no disabilities, that it's all in the attitude, not only in the attitude of the individual, but in the attitude of society. And that's why we have Legislative Disability Awareness Day, and that's why Henry joined us, because we're trying to change those attitudes of society. He also mentioned to us that he was, as he put it, he's here today because he was fortunate enough to contract polio at age 4. And he then goes on to tell us how he has taken a disability and made it a very positive part of his life, as he has talked to many groups, and those of you who sit in this chamber and in the gallery probably recognize him. And as I said to him earlier, if he didn't have the beard, we would probably recognize him even quicker. But he did star on many television shows, as mentioned, Knots Landing, T.J. Hooker, Hill Street Blues, and other shows. Henry shares with us today, through his accomplishments as read by the Journal Clerk, that having a disability in society is a very positive thing, and that people with disabilities want opportunity. They want to be treated like everyone else. Henry, we were blessed and very pleased to have you with us today. We are pleased at the work that you have done throughout your life in promoting the right attitude about people with disabilities, and we hope that we can have you back in our capital again. Thank you for all you've done.
Question is on the resolution. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Resolution is unanimously adopted.